Stellar Blade is taking the world by storm. After the release of the demo, hype for the game is at an all-time high. The game showed off gorgeous visuals and art style, incredible music, and some really fun combat that has taken people by surprise. Many people previously thought this game would be more like a Bayonetta or a Devil May Cry. However, the developers describing it as Nier meets Sekiro seems like a very on-point analogy. And today we got some news on Stellar Blade that is incredibly fascinating, as well as the future of ShiftUp and where they will be headed after Stellar Blade's release. So if you love Stellar Blade, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, as this channel brings you everything about the game. And we are on the road to 100k subscribers, and every single sub counts. Recently there was an interview with the CEO of ShiftUp, and he's given us some details on Stellar Blade. It's worth noting that this has been translated from Korean, and the translation may not be entirely accurate, and these are general notes of what he's had to say. If only the main story is played on easy mode, you are looking at 20 to 25 hours, which is to say that if you don't spend like 3 or 4 hours on a single boss and you play the game straight through, it is roughly a 20 to 25 hour game. If you also complete side quests, that will add another 10 to 15 hours to the game, and if you proceed while collecting all the collectibles, you'll get more than 40 hours out of the game. This is the perfect length for this type of game. I'm going to be honest, I'm tired of every game nowadays being 100+ hours long. So many times have I played through those super long games and just found myself absolutely burned out. 20 to 35 hours is plenty enough length, especially considering the replay value that this game has, which, speaking of replay value, there will be a hard mode available after the first completion. So when you only saw easy and normal available for selection during the demo, and you're wondering where the hard mode was, you will have to beat the game on normal first. It has been confirmed in another interview that New Game Plus will not be available at launch. However, it is something that is going to be patched in at a later date. One of the interesting things you can do in Stellar Blade is go into the menu and change the length of the ponytail that Eve has. While I personally love the aesthetic of the long ponytail, the only issue that I have with it is that it can be a major distraction during combat. This is why I switched the ponytail to the short style. The CEO had this to say about the long hair ponytail style. Due to physical errors, it's not easy to implement long hair. However, it was determined that long ponytail is a good means to prominently emphasize the action-focused gameplay. You know, it is cool to see the ponytail dance around whenever you're doing that high-intensity action combat. Then we have DLC. Now, normally when it comes to a game like Stellar Blade, you would imagine a ton of DLC costumes, loaded with tons of microtransactions. However, this is not going to be the case with Stellar Based. Efforts were made to include complete content in this game. No separate DLC is currently planned. And I gotta say it again, absolutely based. Seeing the controversy that Dragon's Dogma 2 just went through with these microtransactions, it would have been really easy for them to get away with it in this game. Again, because this is the type of game that you would absolutely expect to have microtransactions. I mean, this is a company whose only experience before Stellar Blade was gacha games, so you would really expect them to have this type of thing. So I love to see their commitment to having no DLC and no microtransactions. Next, they talk about the grotesque enemy design. Enemies appearing in the game were designed to lack certain parts or to have emphasized appearances. This is because the game's concept is an action game intended for a mature audience, and the enemy design is related to the overall progression of the story, designed by scanning 3D clay models crafted by a professional artist. Indeed, the enemies are pretty grotesque looking, but they are incredibly fun to beat up on. Next, we have the game's world structure. For the main storyline, a linear map and progression approach were applied. However, after arriving at the main city, areas such as the Great Desert and Wasteland are prepared for the exploration in a semi-open world manner. This is a game that is going to attempt to hybrid open world and linear maps, something that I've been a big fan of in the past, and something that I'm excited to see them do here. It's one of the things that I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth does so well. While the game is open world, there are many linear dungeons and linear segments that allow you to take a break from just doing all the open world grind. It's a good change of pace. Next, there's the game's OST. I don't know about you guys, but the music from the demo has been absolutely stuck in my head for the past few days. I absolutely cannot get it out. And if you've played Nier Automata, it might remind you a lot of the music in that game. As it turns out, quote, 60% of the game's OST was produced in-house, while the remaining 40% was created by the external company Monaka Studio. Monaka Studio is the company founded by the director who participated in the production of the Nier Automata game OST, that is Keiichi Okabe, who composes the OST for the Nier games. However, the director did not directly participate in the production of the OST for this game. So while many people have thought that Okabe was the composer for this game, he is not. However, it is his company, and likely much of the sound team from Nier Automata, which is why the OSTs can sound pretty similar, as similar people likely worked on them, just not the main composer. That being said, either way, Stellar Blade's music sounds fantastic, and I honestly cannot get enough of it. They also say that you can expect to die a lot in Stellar Blade, especially in the latter half of the game, so they tried to make death scenes short, with him saying, quote, "This is intentional. It is expected there will be many deaths in the latter part of the game, so the scene duration has been made short. Since there is no death penalty, it is hoped that death will be considered a light part of the gameplay." If any of you guys know me, you know I do not mind dying over and over again to a fairly challenging boss. As long as the boss fight is well designed, I will sit there all day grinding it out, and the fact that there is no death penalty makes that even more accessible to do. Lastly, they talked on the business model. Besides the game price, there are no additional business models. All items can be acquired through in-game play. However, in the case of collaborations with certain IPs, there may be paid purchases for specific outfits. As I mentioned earlier, if they want to drop a 2B outfit for $5 later on, I wouldn't fault that as much as them locking Eve's costumes behind a paywall. It is something that they could totally get away with, but the fact that they aren't is really awesome. And I would love to see Eve in the outfits of heroines from other games. And if you love Stellar Blade, this may not be the last time you see Eve. In an interview with Famitsu, the CEO also said there is a potential for a follow-up game if Stellar Blade does really well. Kim joked that we might discover the age of Eve and her allies in Stellar Blade in the sequel. That being said, Stellar Blade seems to be selling incredibly well right now. For the United States and Canada, it is the #1 selling PS5 game. It's the #2 best-selling game on Amazon Japan. For Amazon in Germany, physical copies of the game are already sold out. So it seems that Stellar Blade is doing quite well for itself, and ShiftUp is already planning their next game. Via InsiderGaming.com, thanks to ShiftUp World, we found out that ShiftUp is already hiring for their next project, with the job listings revealing a few interesting details about the project. It's being built in Unreal Engine, it'll be available on PC, console, and mobile. It'll feature a range of creatures and monsters. It'll boast stylish action scenes, and it will be a story-focused RPG game. If I were to take a random stab at what this could be, again, this is just what I imagine based on what we know here. This could be their own type of Genshin-like game. The reason I say that is because, one, they're targeting PC, consoles, and mobile. Because of the fact that mobile is in there, it makes me think that this is going to be more of a gacha game. This is where the team has their deepest familiarity. Again, they are known for Nikkei and Destiny Child, not to be confused with Destiny's Child, both of these being gacha games with beautiful heroines. Thus, it might make sense to me if they were to take all the experience that they got from working on Stellar Blade, as well as their experience with working on these gacha games, and make a sort of action RPG live service game that continued in perpetuity. Please bear in mind, this is just me theorizing on what they could do based on the things that they've done before, and ways in which they might combine them. None of that is confirmed, but just based on what we know here, that is an entire possibility just because mobile is on the list here. But love to hear everyone else's thoughts on this in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next video.